I was having a good day. I was. Yeah. Past tense.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks and all the latest and not always greatest, but breaking news surrounding Oregon. Who would step up? Another five-star visitor coming through this weekend. All on today's... Okay, all right. I was having a good day, you know? I was having a good day. I'd gotten a jump start on work. Went to the golf course. It was a beautiful day. There was nobody out there. Really? I wasn't waiting on it. I was by myself in my own world. I didn't play great. I didn't care that much. It was nice to be out there. Perfect temperature. Wind wasn't blowing out. Everything was perfectly fine. Then I get off the golf course and Oregon fans are in a panic and I'm getting bombarded with texts and my phone's blowing up. Is this real? Is this real? All right. So for those of you that don't use the internet and just listen to this show, there was a report from someone I haven't heard of, frankly, until yesterday. Suspicious if you just say it like that, sure. But overall, hadn't heard of this account that said Evan Stewart tore his patellar tendon and will miss the entire 2025-26 season. Okay. So my first thought was, who the heck is this guy? And the answer is, I have no idea. So I started asking around. There is no confirmation that I have gotten that he's 100% out for the year, but we should all be prepared for that possibility. At the very least, when Oregon's season starts on August 31st against Montana State at Autzen Stadium, don't expect Evan Stewart to be there. And if you're still in the camp of it hasn't been tweeted by a big-time journalist yet or reported by a big-time journalist yet, I get that. I'm telling you, you can choose to trust me or not. I think there's enough merit to it for me to throw out my show rundown and talk about it today. But can I guarantee every bit of information, what exactly was injured, how he got injured, how long he's out for, whether he could play this year? No, none of that. I do not know. Nobody knows. And anyone who tells you that they know doesn't, I don't think actually knows, because the other thing you have to consider as a backdrop to all of this, Dan Lanning and his staff, historically, not the most loose-lipped people when it comes to injuries. And that's when he has to go to the podium and talk about them, or get asked about them, rather. Dan Lanning doesn't have a press conference. It's summer vacation. I bet you Dan Lanning is, obviously dealing with this sort of stuff and knee-deep in recruiting, maybe neck-deep in recruiting with the lineup of visitors that Oregon has rolling through this weekend. But he's not going to go out and just make a statement, yep, Evan Stewart done for the year. Like, we're not going to get a tweet or a confirmation from Dan Lanning. I don't know when his next interview would be. I don't know when we will hear all of that. But in your head, I think it is a good idea to not anticipate having Evan Stewart on the field this season, while keeping in the back of your mind, it's possible that he does play. There is some of this that lines up logically. This was, of course, flying around the internet as it broke, because this is pretty big news for a team that's expected to make the playoff, which is what I expect them to do. And I don't think I'd made an official declaration on the show, but if you'd asked me who's going to be Oregon's leading receiver this year, I would have picked Evan Stewart. So a playoff team working in a new quarterback loses its potential pending leading receiver, who is also a fourth-year college football player. Not great. Not great. Disaster? No. I will talk about this more in the second segment. Yes, first of all, I do not want to undersell this. For those of you watching on YouTube, you saw my expression to begin the show, all right? This put me in a bit of a... the head drop was so real. I mean, I walked off. I got up and down on 18 for par. Thanks for asking. And I walked off that green, pull out my phone, and it's blown up, and I see what everyone's asking me about or talking about, and I just, oh, no. The head sulked down to the waist, all right? It was just, why? It does line up, and the other reason, if you're, waiting for this to break from a big-time reporter or journalist, the other reason that it did kind of line up in my head is, well, he didn't play in the Rose Bowl because he got hurt. I don't know that he was at 100% in the Big Ten championship game where he played but didn't record a stat. That wasn't very much like him. Tez Johnson had a huge game, of course, but yeah, that kind of lines up. Then he doesn't play in the Rose Bowl. Then he doesn't participate in the spring game. I don't know exactly what went down. I just know that this is not be good. Would not be good. I didn't think Oregon's offense was going to run through him. I think there are other options available that can step up. But of all the guys, the receiver room is so insanely deep. Insanely deep. It has, along with the defensive line, or why don't we go with had now if you're taking Evan Stewart out of the equation. And this is, of course, why I talk about the depth at every position group on both sides of the ball for the Ducks. And when I give out my grades, I'm conscious of, hey, how well can you survive an injury? Well, of all the position groups, if you're going to have a major injury to someone you thought would be a major contributor, wide receiver or defensive line would be at the top of the list because the amount of proven production and depth mixed with young up-and-coming potential is as strong at the receiver position, thanks to now Dallas Cowboys receiver coach Junior Adams, as any other position on the team. I think defensive line would have a slight edge overall, like with Stewart healthy and everybody healthy on the D-line. But overall, like, okay, it's kind of... It's strange that this comes out in the middle of June. I don't really know how. Beginning of June, I guess. We haven't yet gotten to the 10th. So early part of June, it's a strange time to be sure to see this come out. But this is why you got to recruit. This is why you got to develop. This is why you got to retain talent. This is why you want to stack talent as best you can so that you can be prepared for this sort of situation. And if this ends up being a move that, or not a move, a situation where Evan Stewart doesn't play football at all this year, could Oregon, I got a question from somebody on Twitter, could he medically redshirt and come back for next season? Yes, 100%. This is what a medical redshirt would be for. If he doesn't play this entire season, I think there's a pretty solid likelihood he comes back in 2026. What would he look like? Don't know. But do you want to go to the NFL draft coming off of whatever this injury is and having not played college football? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. If I were Evan Stewart, I wouldn't do that. Now, maybe the NFL comes back to him and says, no, we feel like you'll be okay. We'll still take you in the second or third round. Okay, then maybe he goes. But upside, could have Evan Stewart on the roster for 2026. Great. Talented player. Downside, might not have him for the season. So, I had a whole show written out. It was a good show. It was a really good early June show talking about why we should keep playing the Beavs, have some great mailbag questions, Spencer's scale of agreement takes. That's all going to have to wait for a show next week because, well, yeah, something like this takes priority. So let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. It stinks. It absolutely stinks. Could be worse. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, like Tyrese Halliburton's latest playoff game winner against the Thunder. last night. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you want to bet anything related to college football, you can do that. You've got win totals. You've got conference title odds. Oregon's on there, of course, tied for second with Penn State in the Big Ten. Top 5 nationally in the national title odds for next year. Everything that you want is over there at FanDuel.com. I don't know if the Evan Stewart injury has an impact on anything. A receiver probably wouldn't from an odds standpoint. I'd rather have him than not have him, of course. But whatever you want to bet, go bet him with FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I always wonder going into every offseason, what am I going to talk about every day? What's the news going to be? Sometimes you have an idea, and sometimes you don't. I didn't have an idea this news was coming, but here we are. So let's assume for the moment that the worst comes to pass and Evan Stewart doesn't take the field this year for the Ducks. As I mentioned earlier on the show, the wide receiver room is as well positioned to survive an injury like this as any group on the roster. Now, do I feel awesome, warm and bubbly inside about Evan Stewart not being there? No. Because he was the one proven veteran. Gary Bryant Jr. classifies as a proven veteran, and I don't want to sleep on his potential. A guy who's going into his 6th year of college football, was dinged up last season, borderline 5-star recruit coming out of high school, transferred from USC a couple of years ago. Like, that's now the most veteran guy in the receiver room from a production standpoint. I think he can be poised to see a bigger role without Evan Stewart. I think Justice Lowe, who was the guy that came in and played in the Rose Bowl when Evan Stewart, right before the game was announced that he was out, it was Justice Lowe who went in and played, made a couple of catches, one of them a really good one along the sideline. And, I see the potential. I think Justice Lowe and Evan Stewart, frankly, are the most similar of any two receivers in the room. Like, Justice Lowe is Evan Stewart light. He doesn't have, all the NFL traits necessarily, or the proven production really is what is missing that Evan Stewart has. But Stewart is listed as 6 foot, 175 pounds. Justice Lowe, 6'1", 185. So guys are pretty similar out there. I think Justice Lowe is solid. I haven't seen him take over against a team that's going to go on to win the national championship like Evan Stewart did when he went for 7 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. But does that mean that he can't? He could. He could. It's entirely possible. But the other thought I had, is this about to be big-time Dakorien Moore season? When one door closes, another door opens. This situation, if Evan Stewart is actually out for the entire year, stinks for the Oregon offense. They've still got a bunch of weapons, but does this open the door for Oregon to just unleash Dakorien Moore and allow him to have a Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams type season? So I wonder about that because, what I've talked about with regards to Dakorien Moore this offseason is that he is in a perfect situation because I don't think the guys in front of him are so talented that he won't play. I think he has a role one way or the other on the offense. However, he doesn't have to produce. There's no pressure or relying on this guy to be everything that we've hyped him up to be in our heads and on shows like this one. And it's because there are a bunch of veterans in front of him, like Gary Bryant, like Justice Lowe, like Evan Stewart, like Malik Benson. Maybe Jurion Dickey and Kyler Casper see a legitimate role in the offense this year. Like the depth in that receiver room, you got Jeremiah McLaughlin in there. Dylan Gresham was one of the biggest standouts from the spring game, of course. There is still a healthy lineup of talented and, yes, proven receivers, while also providing a little bit of what I talk about with the secondary a lot. There's a high level of talent, not a ton of production, and that makes it mysterious but really interesting. And by the way, on the Dakorien Moore thing, Ryan Williams at Alabama, all the talk, he had the big game against Georgia. He was only 17 years old the entire season. He didn't even hit 1,000 yards in his freshman campaign. Jeremiah Smith did, but that's because he's not of this universe. He's actually an alien that was transported here through a multi-dimensional passway, and he's just here now. He's not going anywhere. But Ryan Williams had 865 yards on 48 catches and 8 touchdowns this past year at Alabama. Also ran for 2 touchdowns on 4 carries for 48 yards. But I think you could certainly, if your takeaway is, well, this is going to open the door for Dakorien Moore to go have the big freshman season that we all want him to have when you bring in the number 1 wide receiver recruit in a high school class, it makes it more likely. If Stewart is not there for the entire season, this certainly makes that far more likely. But I still come back to, it's great that Dakorien Moore is there. This is why I still get comments or notes from people all the time, via Twitter or wherever, like, what do you care about recruiting? What does it matter? They're just going to bring in portal guys, right? Oregon doesn't develop, which is a dumb and stupid narrative, but, it's out there. I come across it. I'm sure many of you do as well. But this is why you go out and get the most competitive depth that you can possibly find. And yeah, you're going to need someone who is not as established of a college football player as Evan Stewart to step up if he ultimately misses the entire season. But do I feel good about what's in that room? I do. I really do. Jurion Dickey looked healthy in the spring game. Remember, that was a 5-star receiver recruit. Oregon's brought in a 5-star receiver in 3 straight cycles now, with Jurion Dickey, Gatlin Bear in 2024, who gets to campus in 2026 after his LDS mission, and Dakorien Moore in 2025. We'll see if that continues in the class of 2026. I think that's asking quite a bit of Ross Douglas, the wide receiver coach, with this being his first year. And when he came over, it wasn't. It was before the cycle heated up in earnest, but he didn't have the ability to establish relationships going back to last summer, which is oftentimes what you need to get highly rated recruits, or any recruit, is you got to have a multi-year relationship with the kid. So I think this receiver room is still deep, talented. A name I will also throw out there, I've mentioned Justice Lowe and Gary Bryant and Dakorien, obviously. Malik Benson flies under the radar. Didn't have a great spring game, but it was just one day. Super talented, super experienced guy. Doesn't have the production, does have the potential, though. We'll call that the 2 P's of skill position players. Production, potential. He's got one of those. The 2 Power 4 schools he's been at, he got buried on the depth chart at Alabama, and he was in a Florida State system last year. He was one of the transfers that had, one of many, of course, that had people picking Florida State to win the ACC last year. And heck, I picked them to win 10 games. Instead, they lost 10 games. College football. It's great. Benson was one of those guys people said, oh, he's going to be a legit go-to weapon on the outside. Well, now he definitely needs to be, because Evan Stewart was a guy last year who can run the whole route tree. We saw that. His touchdown against Maryland was on a short route. He caught all sorts of stuff when Tez Johnson wasn't available against the second half of the Michigan game and the Wisconsin game. But he was a deep threat sort of guy. Benson has that sort of speed, and he also has enough size to be on the outside and take the top off the defense. So that's another guy I think that deserves some recognition for needing potentially to step up in the absence of Evan Stewart, however long that absence is. So curious what you all think. I will certainly be diving into this more next week on the show, because I haven't heard all of your thoughts on this yet. We're going to undergo a weekend. We're going to let everything settle down. We're going to take some breaths, realize Oregon's offense still has a bunch of weapons, and then I didn't even mention Kenyon Sadiq. How about that? Did an entire segment on who could be called upon more. Didn't get to Sadiq yet. Maybe that's for next week on the show. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think, if Evan Stewart's out for the whole year, steps up the most this season for the Ducks? Not fun times, but a fun question of sorts. And we're going to end on a positive note because this weekend for Oregon got even better. Well, yesterday on the show, I discussed the 5 stars that Oregon has rolling through campus this very weekend. Tyler Atkinson, number 1 linebacker. Brandon Arrington, number 1 athlete. Those guys are both top 10 players overall, regardless of position. You know who else is coming to town this weekend into Eugene? Richard Wesley. A guy who, since his not decommitment, but kind of decommitment, something, I don't know exactly what we're calling it, I have made the prediction, just a prediction, just a guess, just a hunch. He's going to wind up with Oregon, even though, you made the video of Dan Lanning 17 days later. His recruitment's open, taking a bunch of visits. All right, I bet he winds up back with Oregon. But Calvin Russell's one of the top wide receivers in the class of 2026. Joey O'Brien's one of the top safeties. Jax Tanner, offensive lineman, all will be on campus this weekend. And a late addition is Jhett Washington, 5-star safety that could continue the run that led to Chris Hampton, the secondary coach, being the, I think he's back to safeties coach. They moved that thing around. Anyway, Chris Hampton's a stud. Co-defensive coordinator and DB's coach for the Ducks. He was the 24/7 Sports Recruiter of the Year last cycle. Well, could be picking up where he left off because Jhett Washington is one of the top safeties and, frankly, one of the top overall players in the class of 2026. So you got 4 5-stars and 4 highly sought-after 4-star guys coming to town this weekend. In case you have any doubt whatsoever that Oregon is going to pick up steam in the class of 2026, I know the latest recruiting news that I've been able to talk about here on the show is about guys in the class of 2027. I like the start. I'm always here for recruiting 4-star defensive linemen. They've got a couple of them there. But things are going to start to heat up here, and I'm just curious to see which ones. Now, from a likelihood standpoint, I think Wesley is the most likely 5-star Oregon gets of the bunch. I'd probably say Jhett Washington is second, maybe tied with Brandon Arrington. I think Tyler Atkinson is third. This will be the second time in the last 2 or 3 cycles that Oregon has gone up against Georgia, amongst other schools, but most notably Georgia, to get the number 1 linebacker in a class. Last time came down to Oregon and Georgia, and he wound up choosing Georgia. Williams was his last name. I forget what his first name was because Dylan Williams chose Oregon. He was a 4-star linebacker, but then there was another 5-star linebacker in there as well. But you get the idea. Now, the other piece of news that was flying around when you talk about 5-star recruits, reportedly, 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons is not going to take his visit to USC. Now, of all those guys, of all of those 5-star recruits that I just listed, if I had to pick one that I'd say is the lowest priority, as much as I want Ryder Lyons, it is Ryder Lyons to me. Now, this has been a fascinating recruitment to follow. He is an LDS kid. BYU is in the fold, and that's, certainly a feather in their cap that allows them to stand out from everybody else. I don't begrudge them for that. Oregon has ways that it stands out. Everybody's got something to identify their school or to help it stand out, because a lot of these things can get the same, right? You're going to go to a campus, you're going to walk through, you're going to get a pitch from coaches, you're going to talk about playing time and development and NIL and all this stuff, and you'll get a bunch of free gear and snacks and everything that goes on during a visit and whatnot. But you got to have a way to stand out. And, BYU's not typically in the fold for a 5-star quarterback that Oregon and USC both want. However, that's the situation here. Now, he's a California kid. USC does have a quarterback committed in the class of 2026 in Jonas Williams, a former, or one time I should say, Oregon commit. But when Williams flipped to USC, I suspected that they were putting a lot of their eggs into the basket of Jared Curtis. I still think that was the case. He wound up choosing Georgia, and then immediately you saw the crystal balls flip from USC to Oregon for Ryder Lyons. So I don't think he has a set commitment date just yet, but it's certainly one of the more fascinating recruitments to follow just because of the nature of the schools that are involved there. The fact that, Oregon has gotten into the top 4 for Matt Ponatoski, who's a 4-star quarterback in the class of 2026, and they, probably and correctly look at Ryder Lyons as a 2027 recruit because that's when he would get on campus. I have also said and continue to believe that I'd understand why they'd go after Ponatoski because you can't guarantee what the quarterback room is going to look like, and you'd always rather have more options than fewer, to be sure. However, if Oregon winds up not taking a quarterback in the class of 2026, would it be odd? Yeah. Unprecedented? No. Most schools take at least one quarterback every cycle. Oregon is as well positioned as they possibly could be to not get one in the class of 26 because they got into Ponatoski's recruitment a little bit later after Jared Curtis went to Georgia, and they were staring down the barrel of, okay, well, our next most likely option is to go get Ryder Lyons, and he's really a 2027 recruit. So definitely keeping an eye on that one, and make no mistake about it, it would be awesome if Oregon were to get Ryder Lyons because that dude... There's something. I was a Jared Curtis over Lyons guy. I don't see Lyons as a consolation. He's one of the premier quarterbacks in the class of 2026. There are plenty of recruiting analysts, I think Brian Smith is among them, that rank Ryder Lyons ahead of Jared Curtis. I've just always been a Curtis guy personally because I see Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, and I like that comparison. But Lyons is not overrated as a 5-star recruit. Let's just say that. So plenty of buzz. I don't expect Oregon to necessarily get a commitment coming out of this weekend, but the next name to watch, June 13th, week from today, Messiah Hampton, 4-star receiver. Hopefully, be talking about him a week from today on the show. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.